Good evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach, held Tuesday, July 5th, 2023, at 7 p.m. We'll have a roll call. Councilmember Postoli.
Here.
Councilmember Lester. Here. Councilmember McGinnis.
Present.
Vice President Treston.
Here.
President Bendo.
Present.
Let the record indicate the presence of Acting City Manager Ron Walsh and Corporation Counsel Dennis Cohen. We'll now have a salute to the flag.
Councilmember McGinnis, would you please lead us?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first meeting of July. Hope everyone had a safe and fun 4th of July holiday weekend. And let's get going. So we'll start with the city manager report.
Hello, everybody. Before I start the meeting, I just want to acknowledge and thank and point out to everybody in the audience our volunteer and paid fire department for all the great work that they do around the city, keeping us safe and getting us through the 4th of July in a safe way. How about a round of applause for our firemen? So I have some exciting news for the city this year. Earlier in June, we went out on a tour with Moody's and one of our vendors, CMA, for the city, because we were working again on them evaluating us financially, and we just got word that the city's bond rating has gone up again for the third time in 3 years, which is basically unprecedented. For those who don't know, in July of 2021, we had a rating of Baa3, which is one step above junk bond. At that time, we managed to get ourselves from Baa2 to Baa3. We were just one step above junk bonds. In February of 2022, the city managed to go from Baa3 with a negative outlook to Baa3 with a positive outlook, which was positive news, but nothing that's really right home to mom and dad about. In June of 22, we were upgraded from the Baa3 positive to Baa2 with a positive outlook. So that's really 2 grades up. We just received from Baa2 going up to Baa1 with a positive upgrade. So let me put this in some very simple terms. We just saved $600,000 because we went up in this grading because of the financial practices that we put in place over the next 15 years for the money that's been loaned out for the city. So it really means a lot, a tremendous amount to this city when we actually work so hard to get these upgrades and put together budgets and manage the city in such a way that the rating agencies look favorably upon the city. You know, we're not out of the woods yet. We're still working to go forward and move up. The fact that it's a Baa1 with a positive outlook is an indication by the rating agencies that they're considering us again, if we stay on the same course, for another upgrade, which in turn would also save us money again. So some of the things that we've been able to do, or the city has been able to do, is, you know, restructure some of our contracts. We no longer borrow for any operating expenses at all. They're all covered under all of our management techniques now. So it's really a positive thing, and a very positive thing. And it doesn't come without the hard work of every one of the department heads here in the city. And really, one of the people to really thank very much is our comptroller, Ina Resnick, for her hard work and really helping us manage the city. So, Ina, thank you. There's some work still to be done, right? You know, GAOF says that we really should have about 17% in reserve. Right now, we have right around 10% in reserve. So over the next several months, we'll be working on upgrading our fund balance policies so that we can be in alignment with that. We're actually above our current policy right now, which calls for 5%. But when we did that, when this city did it, this council did that at the time, we had approximately $250,000 of unassigned fund balance, which means we were basically I would say a garbage truck away from not having any liquidity to run the city. And now we have at least the protection of a 10% fund balance and sound financial practices. And that's what Moody's looked at us for. They said, you know, what are the practices that the city has? How is the management? How is the stability of the city? And that's why the upgrade came. So I just wanted to make sure that the public was fully informed of that. Next item I want to talk about real quick is a flyer that some of you may see out there. It's a gun buyback program that we have engaged with the County of Nassau, basically Ann Donnelly, the district attorney. We reached out to the police department, and myself, we reached out to Ann, and we asked her if she would be willing to partner with the city of Long Beach and basically fund a gun buyback program. She committed to $40,000 of giving the city money so that we can go out and purchase back weapons, unwanted firearms in the city. And I have a verbal commitment, which didn't make it into the resolution, from the Nassau County Police Department as well, to cover another $10,000. So in a total, about $50,000 to take unwanted handguns and rifles and assault rifles off the streets of Long Beach. So that's going to be on Saturday, this coming Saturday at July 8th. We've handed out probably 600 or 700 flyers. It's up on our website. It's up on the police department website. And it's going to be right over here on National Boulevard at the Evangel Revival Community Church from 10 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's completely anonymous. If you walk up with a handgun, a pistol, a rifle that you want to get rid of, and so that we can keep it from causing any damage, or getting in the wrong hands or being used in a bad way, we strongly encourage you to get the word out to everybody to please come down and turn in your unwanted firearms. So that's a very positive thing, and we really thank Ann Donnelly, the Nassau County Police Department, and County Executive Blakeman for helping us out with that. And the last point that I wanted to bring up is the New York Forward meeting. So many of you will recall that several months back, the city was awarded $4.5 million from New York State through an grant application that we did through our economic development office, and Ms. Patty Bourne is in the audience tonight, who was pivotal in that role. Patty, you here? Where are you? Yeah, she's in the back. Patty really did great work in helping us secure this grant money for the city. So next Wednesday, in this very room, so a week from today, we're going to have a meeting where it's basically an informational meeting for the public to come in and give your ideas as members of the public as to how you would like to see the $4.5 million that was awarded by the state invested in our downtown area, in the investment area, which will be defined. It will be interactive. You'll be able to give feedback. Your feedback will help to inform how that money actually is actually spent. It is not the city council or us, as myself as the city manager, who makes this determination. It's actually a call for projects as well. So what the city wants to see that falls within the rules or the parameters of the $4.5 million is what gets considered to be done. So it's a very interactive, very proactive type of investment that the state is making in the city of Long Beach. And it shows, look, we've tried to get money like this from the state for a long time. It was really a great thing that we got it. And I would ask you all to join me in thanking Patty for her hard work in our economic development office and getting us $4.5 million. And that concludes my city manager report.
Okay. I just want to piggyback a little bit on that Moody's financial rating news for the city. You know, 3.5 years ago, this city was rated by the state comptroller as the most fiscally distressed municipality in the entire state of New York. And by a long shot, our score was much higher. The higher the score, the worse off you are. And our score was a lot higher than anyone else in the state. We were in terrible shape. We were borrowing millions of dollars every year just to pay the bills. That's all ended now. And that's why we've gotten, actually, it was 3 upgrades in a year and a half, because you said it was 2022, so not 3 years, which is even more unheard of. So fast forward a year and a half, and we're no longer on a state watch list at all. We've gotten awards now for our budgets, and we've gotten 3 Moody upgrades. Now, just so you understand why that's significant, this city borrows money each year for capital projects. The higher your Moody's rating, the more you get in preferred interest rates, meaning you pay less. So the higher your bond rating, the less you have to pay back because you get preferred interest rates. That saves all the taxpayers in this city money, and a lot of it. That's why this is important. It's not just some little fancy, hey, look, we got a gold sticker. This puts money back in people's pockets. So this is not insignificant, and quite frankly, 3 upgrades in a year and a half is completely unheard of, which shows the level of confidence that these rating agencies and the state comptroller is putting in the city right now because of the improvements that have been made. So I just think people need to understand that. This isn't just, like I said, another little, hey, good job. This impacts us all. So with that, we'll move on to the agenda and our public hearing.
There we go. Okay. First item this evening is a public hearing for a local law amending the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding assessment, levy, collection of taxes.
Okay, and I'll open the hearing.
I don't know if that's on, Ray.
Yeah, it was on.
How about now? Ray Flammer, Tax Assessor. Good evening. This public hearing is to opt into 466A of the Real Property Tax Law, which is the volunteer firefighter exemption. It allows a 10% exemption for all volunteer firefighters who own their primary residence within the city of Long Beach. It's for volunteer firefighters with the Long Beach Fire Department. Like I said, it's a 10% reduction in assessed value, and it's for members that have at least 2 years of enrolled service. We've also opted in for members who have 20 years of service to have a lifetime exemption, and for any surviving spouses as well. It's pretty straightforward. Any questions?
The only thing I do want to point out is that the only members that are actually allowed are those who are considered members in good standing, and there are provisions in here to actually define what that is, which were taken directly out of the Volunteer Fire Department's own bylaws, so there would be no conflict between this and what the state had to say.
All right. Any questions from the council members? Is that a maybe? You were playing with the mic.
I have questions for the fire commissioner.
Joe Miller?
You should know.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, sir. I think this is a great program, and I'm really happy to be able to support it. But in going through this exercise, what really came up for the council was that there was no one repository for listing all the benefits or supposed benefits for being a Long Beach volunteer firefighter. And as they are such valued members of our community, I sort of thought it was important to really get all that together in one place. So I've asked the staff to work on that with one of our strategic advisors in order to have a list. You would think we could go and say, hey, here's all the benefits, right? So that we can get more volunteer firefighters. And then back in April, I had asked you for some information regarding some of the tangential exempt organizations that require you to be a member of a volunteer member of the fire department. One of those was the firemen's, Long Beach Volunteer Fire Department. When I asked you for that information, you said you needed to know my reasoning for requesting the information. And I responded that it was my right as a member of the public, according to the United States of America, Department of the Treasury, Internal Revenue Service. So basically, since that was on April 7th, I'm still waiting for that information. That organization is a nonprofit, a 501c3, according to the IRS. And its mission is to recruit, train, and retain a force of volunteers to serve as firefighters, emergency medical technicians, office and administrators for the operation of a local volunteer fire service for the protection of the public. So in my quest to hopefully highlight the benefits of this wonderful organization, I am still waiting for a response from you. Separately, there is another organization that is a 501c3 that is related to the city tangentially, because you have to be a member of the volunteer fire department to be in that organization. That organization is called the Exempt Firemen's Benevolent Association of the City of Long Beach. You said you had nothing to do with that organization. However, when I looked at their 2021 tax return, I noticed that this organization had a balance of $3.6 million in it, which is great, because it should be used for the local volunteer firemen. And that mission is to provide association members and volunteer firefighters of the City of Long Beach Volunteer Fire Department and their families with medical, death, and hardship benefits. Exactly something that we would want to put on a one sheet to know what the benefits are to recruit more local fire department members. You said you had absolutely nothing to do with that organization and did not respond to my request for information. Members of that organization's board include Michael Kerr, Joe Sardo, David Wagner, Bill Notholt, and Sid Langstein as treasurer. The trustees, as of last fall, were Robert Del Preet, Ellen DeBari, Ralph Horowitz, Scott Glazer, Hal Rabin, and Nicholas Gaudiossi. So my question to you as Commissioner is that I would hope that the Commissioner of the Fire Department is aware of all the benefits to volunteer firefighters and works with this administration to make sure that we capture all that information in one document so that we can move forward to recruit and retain more local firefighters. So I hope that in the future you will provide this information, and that, which is anyone in this room could actually ask for, besides the people, so that we can understand how this organization works, how it's paying medical, dental, and vision benefits of approximately $178,000 in 2021, and make sure that everyone in the public is aware of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Any other questions? All right. Any questions or comments from the public?
You have to
No,
step up
you
to the
have to come up to
microphone.
the
You can't just yell out.
My name is Mark Becker. How many volunteer firemen are there? 135. And are there two organizations or one organization? I didn't follow. One. So the other one isn't part of it.
Joe, you're going to have to grab a mic.
Okay, thank you.
The exempt organization is something completely separate from the volunteer organization.
But you need to be have been a local firefighter in order to receive benefits.
All right. Any other comments from the public? All right. Seeing none, I will close the hearing. And why don't we, since we have all our firefighters here before they got to run out, why don't we vote on that now?
Okay. On agenda calendar item number 1, local law amending the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding assessment levy collection of taxes. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second? I will. Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Thank you for your service. This is an important resolution to pass for you all, and benefit well-deserved, and I vote yes.
Councilmember Lester. Yes. Councilmember McGinnis.
Thank you for your service. This is a great benefit, and I look forward to working to get you more benefits. Thank you. I vote yes.
Vice President Treston.
I've been waiting for this since December, so absolutely yes.
President Bendo.
Well-deserved, yes.
All right. Item 2 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to pay administrative costs under the Emergency Tenant Protection Act, authorizing the passing on of administrative costs to the owners of the buildings included under such act, and directing the city controller to make billing therefore.
So, Ina, do you want to come up and just briefly explain this one to the council?
Good evening, Ina Resnick, City Controller. So this resolution has to do with the fees that city has to pay to the state on all the Section 8 dwellings in apartments in the city. And we currently have 419 units. City gets an invoice once a year. We pay exactly $20 a unit, and this authorizes us to pay to the state, as well as to assess $2 administrative charge on each of those units. That's permitted by law. So we collect $22, we give $2, we pay $20 to the state.
Okay, any questions from the council?
It works. So, Ina, this basically costs the city nothing, correct?
Basically, nothing, yes. If we deem that $2 that we pass through, it reimburses us fully for the work that we do, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any questions from the public? This is something we have to do each year. This is an annual thing for all the rent-stabilized apartments in the city. So it's kind of routine, but all right, seeing no questions, on to item 3.
Item 3 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to purchase office supplies under master agreement.
So this item, our office supplying company that we normally get off of the New York State contract, let their contract expire. So the New York State piggyback laws say that we're allowed to find another contract that has been gone through the same procurement process as we have. So we found a contract for Office Depot in Florida, and we're able to use that to basically get the exact same services that we require. And that's what this is so that we can buy our office supplies through a state contract.
All right, any questions from the council? Seeing none, any from the public? Okay, on to item 4.
Item 4 is a resolution authorizing transfer of funds for the 23-24 fiscal year.
So this is a transfer of funds basically for a water purification member. He is a current member of the city staff that took the test, passed the examination, and is now being transferred over to the water department, and the funds here is the difference in his salary. That's just a transfer. There's no funds coming into that department. It's coming out from their contracted services into regular salaries.
All right, any questions from the council? Any from the public? All right, seeing none, item 5.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the city to host and participate in a gun buyback event.
This one here, I explained pre-meeting, but as part of the council meeting, it's authorizing the city to take $50,000 to cover the purchases of the weapons that come in for the gun buyback. And like I've already mentioned, but I'll say it again for on the record, that Ann Donnelly, our district attorney, has given us $40,000, and we have a verbal commitment from the Nassau County Police Department to cover another $10,000. Additionally, it should be pointed out that the district attorney's office is bringing staff down here to help us with this, as well as the Nassau County Police Department, and we'll have our own detectives there. It is completely anonymous, no pictures, no identification. It is just trying to make this city a safer place. There were calls for a gun buyback from various segments of our community, and this is us trying to be as responsive as we can at no cost to the city.
All right, any questions from the council?
Ron, just a couple of questions. When I look at the notice, what's the purpose of limiting it to 5 firearms? Money?
Yeah, it's money, and people game the system.
Can?
Oh, yeah, they do.
All right, I didn't think you
So I'd rather not describe it so that I give people ideas.
Okay.
But people game the system, and, we don't want someone walking away with all the money.
Yeah, I didn't know there were that many guns out there. That's number one. Number two, it says no licensed guns, rifles. Does that mean no licensed rifles, or does that mean no rifles? I just couldn't.
Where, for this gun buyback, we're taking handguns, assault rifles, and ghost guns. We're not taking a regular rifle.
Okay.
So like if Grandpa's rifle is sitting on a shelf and it's a legal firearm to own, then we would not take that weapon.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're
All right,
welcome.
any questions from the public? All right, seeing none, since we're about halfway through the agenda, just in case it's anyone's first time, if you are wishing to speak at Good and Welfare at the end of the meeting, you need to sign up. The sign-up sheets are on the side over there, just in case it's your first time. So, on to item 6.
Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to purchase fuel under various New York State contracts.
I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking today. So this one here is basically authorizing the city to purchase the necessary fuel, whether it's gas, diesel, or otherwise, for the city throughout our time here. We need a resolution to actually incur the expense. Nothing on this would be allowed to be purchased from anything other than an authorized New York State contract, or state contract, I should say.
All right, any questions from the council? Seeing none. Any from the public? All right, item 7.
Item 7 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to accept a charitable donation.
So this is Mount Sinai has made lifeguard shirts for our lifeguard crew. In order to accept the gift of the T-shirts, gifts now have to be formally accepted by the council. So this is a resolution accepting $1,700 worth of T-shirts to be handed out to our lifeguard crew that are being donated by Mount Sinai Hospital.
Any questions from the council?
Ron, that's being handed out tomorrow?
No, I think it was they moved it to the 10th, I think. Yeah, I think they moved it to the 10th. I'd have to check my schedule. I can look.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'll notify you guys when they're going to hand it out if you want to come down for a picture.
All right, any questions from the public? Seeing none. Item 8.
Item 8 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to enter into an agreement for strategic consulting services.
So when we just talked about Moody's, this is the company that actually is our liaison for Moody's to come down and work with us to actually, one of the many things that they do, to actually set up those meetings, get them to come down, have their interest in the city, have them look and seriously evaluate us and try and work towards actually, getting this city the proper recognition for the hard work that we're doing to be responsible, amongst other things. The contract prior to me was for $10,000 a month. So myself and the comptroller, we sat down, we evaluated the contract, we looked at the services that were provided. We kind of took out things that we didn't think were necessary, looked at the things that we were not being utilized, and we reduced the contract from $10,000 a month to $6,000 a month, saving the city some substantial money, and yet still being able to have the services that we need to do projects as they come up. One of the projects that actually are being undertaken right now is related to Councilwoman McGinnis's discussion earlier, in that CMA is doing an evaluation right now of putting together all of the fire department's benefits that are applicable here in the city, and that is really going to be used to try and attract volunteer firemen, fire people, fire officers to the city, so that they can increase the ranks of that volunteer service.
All right, any questions from the council? Seeing none. Any from the public? Okay, item 9.
Item 9 is a resolution authorizing publication of a notice of public hearing of an application to waive the off-street parking requirements for premise 966 West Beach Street. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held July 18th at 7 p.m. Item 10 is approval of minutes from prior meeting, June 20th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay, on to the voting portion. Okay. Item 1's been voted on already. Item 2 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to pay administrative costs under the Emergency Tenant Protection Act, authorizing the passing of an administrative costs to the owners of the buildings included under such act, and directing the city controller to make billing therefor. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 3 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to purchase office supplies under master agreement. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 4 is a resolution authorizing transfer of funds for the 23-24 fiscal year. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second.
I will.
Roy gave it.
Roy, okay.
Yeah.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the city to host and participate in a gun buyback event. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
This program is a step forward in enhancing public safety. I know we've done it before in this community, but it's a very good effort to build collaboration and community trust and a comprehensive approach to public safety, and I vote yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Thank you to the Nassau County District Attorney. Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to purchase fuel under various New York State contracts. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 7 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to accept a charitable donation. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes, and
Count-
thank you.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes. Thank you, Mount Sinai.
President Bendo.
Thank you, Mount Sinai, South Nassau. Yes.
Item 8 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to enter into an agreement for strategic consulting services. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
And finally, item 9 is a resolution authorizing publication of a notice of public hearing of an application to waive the off-street parking requirements for premise 966 West Beach Street floor. Who would introduce and move the adoption of this item? Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
City Manager's monthly personnel report has been filed by the city clerk. Will make a motion to close the meeting.
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes. All right, so now we'll do good and welfare. Just in case you're not familiar, you get, if you signed up, you get 3 minutes. All right. And to start us off, Mark Becker.
Yes, hi, I'm back again.
Hi.
Yeah, the questions I have is about the boardwalk, since I live off the boardwalk. So I know some of the benches are getting steam cleaned, and then they stop and they start another block and a few benches to get the mold off underneath the benches. What's the rhyme and reason of what benches they do? Why don't they do all the benches since there's mold? Also, the benches, when are they going to be fixed, all the broken benches? I mean, it's an eyesore between the green mold and the broken benches. Also, the dune wall, you know, right before the boardwalk. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me though? Yeah. Also, the dune wall outside the boardwalk, so it stops at Lafayette, and that's the end. And when is that going to be continued? And then I mean, I don't know if anybody knows how much the young men and women with the blue that do the boardwalk, how much they get paid. But to add to their duties, we can add maybe picking up some of the garbage on the board. I mean, boy, it's really. I think a lot of people come to Long Beach because of the boardwalk, and I think it should be more pristine. And I guess so that's all my questions. And I guess the last one is, are the windmills outside? Are they going to be a done deal? I mean, the windmills. Are they watching it? I mean, is it done? I mean, from the boardwalk, can you see them? Is it a done deal? Not a done deal. No. Great. But the boardwalk, so what do we, what's going on?
So I'll give you a little information on the boardwalk. So the benches actually, there's a program to go in and clean all the mold from all of them. They move from place to place, and sometimes they don't necessarily go down to where they last left off, but all of them will be cleaned. The last meeting, we had a resolution to purchase the necessary, I guess you would say, equipment or materials to actually repair the broken benches. There's only one vendor
Power wash,
who's no, this is actually for the broken pieces. There's only one vendor that actually makes those. It's one company that makes that specific bench material. We're sort of saddled with the way that was done from the past. So there's 300 and some odd benches up there, so you have to buy it to replace the materials on those benches. So we know that they're broken and they're all being scheduled to be fixed. With regard to the specials, there's special police officers, what they call the seasonal special police officers. In a unionized environment, that's not part of their job responsibilities. We can't force them to pick up garbage. I mean, they do sometimes. I think the greater issue is changing the culture here in Long Beach for people when they come down to use our beautiful beaches and our beautiful boardwalk to, if you bring it, take it.
Oh, yeah.
So,
but they're powerless. They can't stop the skateboarders. They can't stop. I mean, they're powerless.
My summons activity says otherwise, but I know what you're trying to say. It's very difficult to...
yeah, because they're on foot.
There's so many people and so many things happening up there at any given time. You could have 40, 50,000 people in just the length of the boardwalk, walking and being out there, that, I'm also not, and I'm going to be very clear about this, I'm not going to authorize the specials to get into a skateboard or bicycle pursuit.
Right.
But that would be more damage than good.
I agree.
We are well aware of the issues. We issue summonses for the issues, and they patrol very actively up there to do it. We have a decent-sized crew this year of about 28 summer specials. We're always looking to try and hire people even mid-season to supplement those ranks. We did start out with 35. It's a very difficult and thankless job unless you self-motivate yourself, because, you know, they get abused. They get spit on, pushed around, assaulted.
What are their pay and what's their
So
age? At
our
what age?
first, I raised it. So last year it was $15 an hour. That wasn't really doing it. So we raised it to anybody who returned would get $19 an hour, and first year specials would get $18 an hour, and the supervisors would get $20 an hour. So it's close to competitive to some of the others, I guess you would say.
Is it cost
security type
efficient?
office.
Is it cost efficient?
It is very cost efficient, and they do an excellent job. We even have two of them now that are walking the center of town to assist with that and keeping the bicycles off the center of town. And also, just yesterday I was driving through town in my car, and there were two of them issuing a summons to a car that was double parked, and I stopped because the guy was really giving them a hard time. You know, they work very, very hard to kind of handle those situations. So let me tell you, if you know 10 people that want a job, I have 10 openings. Send them to me, and that goes to everyone in the audience. If you have somebody that's 20, 21, 22, 23 years old, we won't take someone right out of high school. They're just not mature enough to deal with some of the things that happen. We need at least first or second year of college is what we're looking for. But anybody who wants to be a summer special for us, we still have positions open, and come down and apply to the police department. We'd love to have them come on board.
And that dune wall, what are they doing with that?
The dune wall, so that was part, Joe, you might want to weigh in on this in case I say anything out of line, but that was all part of a Army Corps of Engineer project. That was what they determined that they would fund and do. So the dunes are actually all part of that. And Joe, you can fill in why it stopped at Lafayette.
Hello? Hello, can you hear that?
Yep, you're good.
Can you hear me now? Yes, well, when the Army Corps completed the project, they only left like the sand fencing, basically, in the maintenance. We call it a maintenance area between the north side of the dune and the boardwalk. So the city was extremely concerned with that 10-foot maintenance area, 12-foot maintenance area, having the dune taking it over, so to speak, like basically moving to the north and closing that whole gap. So we came up with this idea to put in, we're calling it a sand screen. And we actually had to get permission from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and the Army Corps of Engineers to put that sand screen up. Unfortunately, it has proven to be a very difficult and tedious effort. We've only accomplished, like you said, I think 3 or 4 blocks from New York Avenue to Lafayette. We don't do that work in the summer because our beach maintenance staff is extremely busy. So what we intend to do is we're going to pick that work up and start again right after Labor Day and continue. But the most they really will do is probably 2 blocks a year, so it probably will take quite a while. It's very labor intensive, and we do it all in-house with our talented staff, and we don't have, we have a few carpenters, but not enough to finish it all in one season. But we are working on it, and I will bring to the beach maintenance staff to their attention about, you mentioned debris in that maintenance area and garbage being strewn. I was actually up there at Marvell on Monday, and I took a walk. I know the area you're talking about. There was some napkins and debris, people throwing stuff over the side. So we're gonna I'll have our crews take care of that. Okay.
Yeah, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's not a done deal yet? Not yet. Great. Okay, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Gina Bradish.
Good evening. Gina Bradish, 740 West Bay Drive.
Yep, it just got to be close to it.
Sorry, I'm not used to this. Gina Bradish, 740 West Bay Drive. So obviously my question is about police officers or patrolling on the boardwalk. I know that they're specials, they do an amazing job, but as you've just said, they do get abused. They get yelled at, criticized, and with the influx of juvenile crimes in Nassau County, you can watch the news every single day. There's an uptick of it. We need to make sure that we're securing our boardwalk, which residents pay a lot of money for. We charge people $15 a person to come onto the boardwalk. I mean, to see a police presence would be very welcoming to people. Also, it would make us think that we care. Our safety matters. We pay a lot of taxes, and also the security cameras. Where are the security cameras? What feeds, like how good are the feeds? When I gave whatever the incidents happened, I was told that the security camera quality was not that clear of the city's boardwalk cameras. I mean, I'm coming as a person, not as a business owner. It does affect business, it does, but as someone who lives here, our safety for kids on the boardwalk at night, for elderly people who walk after 7, 8 o'clock at night. There just needs to be someone who has some authority up there, police-wise. The specials do an amazing job, again, but it's not enough.
So with regard to the patrolling of the beach and the boardwalk, so every single night we have police officers out on the beach starting at 7 p.m. We have police officers that, as they patrol throughout the day and as needed, do what they need to do. With regard to the cameras on the boardwalk, it's not every single area of the boardwalk has cameras on it. It's a very, very expensive proposition to actually add those cameras. We have added it's about $140,000 just last year into additional cameras along the entirety of the beachfront, with the plan to enhance that each year with a little bit more. I wish I had $3 million to put a camera on every single block, and I really do honestly wish I had enough money to put a police officer every block on the boardwalk. We don't have that kind of financing here in the city.
I understand.
Let me just finish this too. And, you know, I'm aware of the incident that took place at the location on the boardwalk that you and your husband own on the 2nd. You know, you brought up something very prescient, and that is juvenile crime. So let's just say a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old goes up on the boardwalk and decides to take a sledgehammer and blast through the front door of your business. I literally would take him in, I would give him not even an appearance ticket, and he would be let go home. Because the New York State Legislature has basically eviscerated the ability of the police to really have the police and the courts to really have an appropriate manner in which to hold people accountable for their criminal behavior. It is not criminal for him to do that. It is a juvenile offense, if you will, not in the sense of crime. And basically the end result of that happening is I call their parents, I tell them what happened, and they go home. So the problem here in Long Beach, and I want to be very clear about this too, is I get statistics every month on where we stand compared to the year before. So on May 31st, 30 days, that's a 30th, June 1st, I get my report, and we're 10% lower this year in crime than we were last year for this city. Last year, we were essentially flat. We were about 1% down. That was on top of the year before, where we were substantially down from the year before that. And on top of that, the year before that was COVID, and crime went through the floor because nobody was outside. So overall, while we're saying this in public and there's some attention to it on social media, in fact, the incidents of crime here in Long Beach are substantially less than they were 4 or 5 years ago, like by a magnitude. It's one of the safest cities in the United States. But to your point, I understand that crime happens and it's unsettling. I understand that there were some juveniles that were climbing on the building and they hit the window and kicked your door. There was no damage. Not to say that if we were there, that wouldn't have happened. But to be very honest, we're not going to put a police officer up on every block on the boardwalk at 3 o'clock in the morning when people are home in their beds, and it's much more efficient and productive to try and keep their houses safe and them safe in their beds. And we do a very, very good job of that. I will never sit in front of you and tell you that you will have no crime in the city of Long Beach. There's not going to be a place in the United States or in the world where people aren't going to do bad things, especially when they're young and they're not going to be held accountable.
I understand that, and I really do appreciate the police force, but why can't you have a police force in the center of town?
Police force?
Not a force, one patrol.
We have multiple patrols in the center of town.
But the center of town at night, during the day. This weekend, I was on the boardwalk all of July 4th weekend. There was not a cop from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. when I was open on the boardwalk.
Well, I can tell you that we started our beach patrols out on the beach around 1 o'clock on the 4th of July. We had 2 ATVs running up and down the beach all night long, chasing after fireworks and kids on the beach and things like that. It was a very, very busy night. Normally we'd have between 5, 6 patrol cars. We had yesterday 15 police officers out in the city all night long. I don't know how you didn't see them. Maybe just you were going left when they were going right or whatever. But I assure you they were out there. There were no major incidents that took place in the city. We have a couple of arrests for minor offenses that took place, a couple of them on the beach that took place, 2 of them, as a matter of fact, on the beach. 3 people, two incidents on the beach, but they were for minor offenses. And, you know, well, I understand the want for more, but there's a balance here in the government as to where the resources are applied. And on the 4th of July, when you have 69 police officers in total in the city, you have to put them in places where they're going to do the most good. And responding to calls for service is where they're going to do the most good. And they were fully engaged the entire night.
Okay. I just...
I all respect,
I know.
Ms. Bradish.
I know, and I respect that you're having this conversation with me, but I just feel that the center of town where the railroad is where everyone comes into town, and to increase the police presence on the boardwalk that we invite people to come to every single year for the $4.4 million property that we have there, it should be patrolled better than not just by specials. They're 18, 19, 20 years old, and it's just not fair. And we pay a lot of taxes to be here. And we ask people to come here and spend a lot of money, and one of the number one amenities should be their safety. And that's all that I'm saying. And I do appreciate what you do, but safety is a huge thing. And I know that everyone talks about every other issue, but safety is the number one thing that this council should be ensuring.
I take it very, very seriously, Mr.
Thank you.
Bradish. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bradish. Jamie Connolly?
Hi, good evening. I'm Jamie Connolly. I live at 90 Florida Street. I'm here to address the safety on the boardwalk. I go a lot on the boardwalk, morning, evening. It's not safe. I noticed the cameras by Edwards over Riptides. Do they work? Commissioner, do they work? Do the cameras above Riptides work?
Yeah, they work. Continue your comment when you're done.
watches
I'll
them?
answer everything. I'll write it all down, and I'll
Okay,
answer
how
you
do
at the
they
end.
work and who watches them? I know when my Ring camera goes off, I can look to see who's there. Those kids at Riptides were there from 3-something in the morning till after 4. Who watches the cameras? If they're there to help our safety, why isn't someone monitoring them? We have specials that have a train schedule. Why can't they be, when they come off the train, tell those specials, 2 of them, hey, go to Edwards, go to Riverside, that's where the people are coming off. Monitor them at the booth. I saw a kid almost get hit by a bike because everyone's running to get the booths to go across a bike lane. So put a railing there like you had this morning so that they can line up and be out of the way so they're not going to get hurt. And again, it's about safety. Put the patrol where they need to be. They need to be when the trains come into the boardwalk by the Alegria, by Riptides, by Long Beach Road, the common areas where people are going to come off the train and walk to. You have 4.5 million. Make it accessible, make it exciting, make it fun. Put bands on the boardwalk. Expand it over The other side, we had these beautiful bump outs before you put the dunes. You could have put tables there so people can sit and enjoy a meal and look at the water on the boardwalk. We have 4.5 million. Put accessible areas so that people can get on the beach in wheelchairs. We have this money to make our city better. Do it. Put the safeties out there. You don't need that many more people. You need to put them in strategic areas so that we are safe. So I'll ask you, who monitors those cameras?
The police department monitors.
Who?
The police department.
Okay, so for 3 to 407, who is monitoring those cameras?
So they don't sit there and stare at the cameras all night long. They use it as one of the tools that they use.
Does it go
So
off?
the opportunity to see them is related to the time that they have to watch it. It was the 4th of July, or actually the 2nd going into the 3rd, is when that particular incident took place. They're working. There's 2 people down at the desk, and they're answering calls for service, and they're doing their job. So there are hundreds of cameras that we monitor.
But
Not
hundreds
10,
of cameras
not
that
20,
were not monitored
but
at that time.
hundreds of, you do not have an operations center in the city of Long Beach, and nor is it built into the budget, to have somebody who just sits there. You would need five or six people to be able to monitor these cameras, and it's, part of the considerations here as well is we use that as a deterrent, and we use it as something that we use to arrest people and deal with people after the fact if something does take place, if we're not catching it. We catch people. We caught people doing things in the stairwell of the MTA parking garage last night and the night before. Came over the air. I heard it come over where they were watching things take place and deployed officers. But to effectively, it sounds good as a soundbite, but in practicality, you're not able to monitor every movement in the city by camera, and we don't have a structure that way.
But wouldn't it be beneficial?
Okay, and those cameras, by the way, were not pointing at riptides.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The cameras were not pointing at riptides. As a matter of fact, the video that I saw from that came from Riptide's own cameras that they didn't get until the next day when, from what I understand, someone called them and told them that there were kids on the roof, and
Well, again,
That's how they
you know,
were
if we want to
identified.
blame the parents, it's the kids' responsibility. And again, you said you can't really do anything, your hands are tied. But, I mean, I was a kid here, Officer Long brought us right back to home and talked to our fathers. And
We
talked
do
to
that-
us.
we do
and
that
we were in
routinely.
trouble. But that's what we need. We need the patrol to actually care about the kids in this community and bring them home.
to characterize anything, and I find that disturbing that you would say that they don't care. They care- they
You're
ca-
right, I'm sorry, that was bad wording. But I'm saying, when we are here, we knew Officer Long. We knew what he was going to do if he caught you.
There are
we
many-
knew he wasn't
okay,
supposed to be there.
Correct. There are many, almost, I would say all of our officers here are known very well by the community and get to know them more and more every day. I hear what's being said. I understand what you're asking for. We do the best that we can to enhance the patrols up on the boardwalk. But the fact is, it's a busy city with a lot of activity, and we're patrolling every inch of this city every day. There's no place in this city that goes untouched by our police and our officers every day. I wish I had the resources to put 5 police officers up on the boardwalk and have them running around. Every single thing just to do that, that's $750,000 a year, what I just said.
What about putting in specials where they could be
The
to
specials
stop the
are
issues?
assigned in every place that you just said. I have specials that are assigned by the Alegria. I have specials assigned from Riverside. I have specials that are assigned at Long Beach Boulevard, right at Edwards, right at National. That's the main part of town where they're assigned.
I understand that.
Right.
When I sit at Riptides and I watch these people come, or I'm sitting having ice cream, and I watch them come off the train in the droves, which is a beautiful thing for our city, they don't know what to do. They don't know where to stand. They're going to get hit. So at those times, those specific times when the trains come in, that's the time when we need the specials right there at that time. And that would solve so many issues and those certain areas. You're not going to need it at the less frequent areas without the train station.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conley. Patrick McAllister.
This. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Good evening. Thank you, council members, for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Patrick McAllister. I am the onshore project manager for Equinor on the Empire Wind project. I come tonight to inform the council and the public of some upcoming work that
Folks, we'll clear the room out. He's got a right to speak, just like you all do. Folks? Folks?
Ma'am, if it continues, ma'am, you'll be asked to leave. That's the last time I'll say it. If it happens again, I'll have a police officer come and remove you from the room. We will maintain decorum, or you will leave the room. Ma'am, you're leaving the room. Would you please hold the meeting? Ma'am, you have to leave the room. I'm sorry. Thank you.
All right, let's get going again. Just remember, you may not agree with what he says, but he has a right to say it, just like you have a right to speak too. So, they don't have to give their address. They don't. So, all right, please continue.
I come tonight to inform the council and the public of some upcoming work that the Empire team will be performing here in the city of Long Beach. In March and April of last year, Equinor hired a subcontractor to perform some preliminary soil borings in the city of Long Beach. These borings created approximately 6-inch diameter holes in the public right-of-way and a roadway in 4 different locations. After performing the soil borings, the boreholes were restored with cold patch asphalt. The City of Long Beach Department of Public Works has requested that these boreholes be restored to the city standards by installing approximately 6-foot by 6-foot asphalt patches at each of the 4 locations. The locations of the boreholes are as follows. 2 locations on Long Beach Road in front of 669 Long Beach Boulevard, near the Center Millwork and Supply. 1 location on Riverside Boulevard, just south of Park Place and the dead-end street that's near the office complex. And on the northbound side of Laurelton Boulevard, north of West Broadway in the parking lane near the median. This work will be performed by saw cutting the existing roadway, removing existing asphalt to 12 inches below grade, installing compacting subgrade materials, and paving the new roadway surface. All work will be done in accordance with City of Long Beach restoration requirements. This restoration work is expected to generate sound consistent with typical street work, including saw cutting, jackhammering, and use of backhoe and paving equipment. Work is expected to take approximately 4 to 5 days. The work will be performed Monday through Friday days only, and no construction sound will be produced before 8 a.m. or after 4 p.m. The restoration locations are on the sides of the roads or on dead-end streets, so the work can be performed by protecting the work area with work vehicles and cones and maintaining traffic flow. Approximately 4 places or parking spaces will need to be taken up for the restoration on Laurelton Boulevard, and side of road parking spaces will be utilized for the other locations. Any parking restrictions will be coordinated with the City of Long Beach Police Department. A notice will be sent out through the Empire Wind Community Newsletter and available on the Empire Wind website. We will also provide notice for the city to post on your website. Residents may contact Empire Wind information line at 833-699-1965 or email empirewind@equinor.com for further information. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak and inform you of this restoration work.
Okay, thank you. Ira Charles.
First, I'd like to say, when I arrived to the building tonight, there was somebody outside handing out flyers. I asked him 3 times where he was from. Oh, I'm from Gino's. Oh, I'm with this. He couldn't even tell me where he's from. I'd also like to ask the people of Equinor, God forbid the cable comes through the beach or our town, will you be hanging out on that beach or will you be buying homes along the route of the cable? I'm here my whole life. Long Beach is a place like no other. I speak to my friends who have moved away. They all say the same thing. They refer to where they live as a development. I live in this fancy development, and they all say there is no place like Long Beach. It's a town, it's a community where we all watch out for each other, and this place has soul, something that not a lot of towns could state. With that being said, when people come up here to speak, such as Christina Kramer and Kelly Martinson, and they give their views because they're doing the homework for everybody. There's a saying, if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find another room. I've chosen, I don't know them from a hole in the wall, but I've chosen to be in the room that they're in because they're doing all the research. And with that being said, I don't know them, as I said. Kelly Martinson, when she was here last week, described everybody as neighbors. We all look out for each other on our blocks. We make sure that the snow is shoveled. If someone's sick, we help them out. I think Kelly made a mistake. We're not neighbors. We're actually family. And blood is thicker than water in this instance. With that being said, it would be remiss of me what went on here last week with Christina Kramer. She got up here, she expressed her opinions. Whether you agree with them or not, you're elected officials, so you hear them. When she got up here, she was called back at the 2-hour, 38-minute mark and 38 seconds. She came back to this podium. And respectfully, Mr. Bendo, it was premeditated. You pulled out a folder, you had papers, and you started to try to publicly humiliate her. It's not the place. It just isn't the place. She's passionate, you're passionate, but it shouldn't have gone on here. And it went on for 5 minutes, and it was just wrong. And you started talking about social media. If you're mad at social media, blame Al Gore. He invented the internet, not her. It just isn't right. Finally, you had stated that you're not a lawyer, you're not an engineer. You're not qualified to say that there are 3 Christina Kramers. It just wasn't right. She's just showing her passion. That's all.
Okay. Eric Berkowitz.
Good evening, Eric Berkowitz, 160 Lincoln Boulevard. I have a question for the council. Maybe I'm not educated, but what does the city stand to gain from revenue from the power lines coming through the island here?
At this point, we have no idea.
Is it open-ended? What kind of answer is that? That you don't know what kind of agreement you're entering in? Is there a minimum, a maximum?
So the way the Article 7 process works is if the cable routing, they get to a certain point in the process, then the company is supposed to approach the municipality and negotiate what they call a benefits package. That's not at that point yet.
So right now, is there a range? Do we have an idea what the min-max might look like? 5 million, 7 million? You don't know?
There is no guideline or range. It's what you negotiate, if you even negotiate with them.
So in other words, they build the line and then we
No,
negotiate?
No.
Okay. All right.
No.
I don't know the
No,
process.
all that has to take place before the line would even be considered to go through here.
Okay. So the path that it's taking seems cockeyed, going up right, left, up Lincoln, which I happen to live on Lincoln. There's a right-of-way here at the train station, not to say another neighborhood, but that's the shortest distance. I went to engineering school, but I remember in school, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, making a right, a left, a right. So how does that factor in? The revenue question is a concern. So along Lincoln and in this affected area, 500 houses. Okay, 500 houses, real estate values, $500 million, $400 million in real estate value. Okay, tax revenue to the county, to Long Beach, $20 million, $30 million. How are we going to be compensated when we go and reduce our taxes because our values have dropped 25% in this affected area? How is Long Beach going to make that revenue up from the people that are affected for a one-time payment from this company? These are questions that I think we'd like to know. I'd like to know.
John,
And is there a plan?
You know, what you're talking about right now is so premature. I don't think anybody here, if they thought there was a danger by these cables, I don't care what kind of money they would be offered.
Mr. Lester,
but I mean...
But your point about safety...
Yes.
Everything I've read, power lines, NIMBY, not in my backyard, 700 feet away from a power line. I'm going to be looking outside my house and seeing a trench. How deep can that go? Whether you encase that in concrete that's 6 feet deep, I don't know, 2 feet of concrete.
What makes you think that would happen?
How else are you going to run a line down the streets?
What makes you think that would happen? So far, you have not seen, as far as I'm concerned, I don't see cables coming through here. And I don't, and
Good.
there is, and that has been my position from day one. And I don't see any amount of money that I would put my grandchildren in jeopardy for. So for you to come and ask, well, how much money? What difference does it make? Would you put your children in danger for any amount of money?
That's your...
Any?
But Mr. Lester, Roy, that's what you say. And I appreciate what you said. I'm sure everybody else in the room does. We know you for 40 years. That's respectable. I don't know these other people on the board. The fact that it's even being discussed and it's threatening as a fear that something like that is possible is mind-blowing. I lived in Long Beach for 40 years. To think that my block, hey, thank you, has been voted by engineers and whomever, they're doing bore samples, things are happening, that potentially some decisions could be made and say, we need $7 million. We lost $100 million. We got to make that up. We need $7 million.
I don't think.
So you understand where I'm coming from, and I think a lot of people feel the same way.
I don't want to speak for
Pardon?
I don't want to speak for my other council members, but I don't think there's a person up here that would sell out Long Beach if they thought it was a danger.
Then thank
I
you.
don't.
Then thank you. Well, with that said, I do have one more point, not related to this, and other people I'm sure will speak about this. But the fact that our bond rating has gone up is significant. That's important for borrowing and what have you, capital improvements. My question would be, there's two components to every budget. There's your revenue and there's your middle line. What have we cut in the middle line? How much have we cut out of our budget in the middle line that has allowed us to put money in the bank and grown? Because the other component of that is the top line, and that's the increase in tax revenues that we're paying for, And we need a good bond rating, I understand that. But there's a compromise in between. The middle line needs to get cut. So my question
I'll
is,
just touch it a little bit. So, not knowing exactly what you mean by the middle line, but I'll put it to you this way. The proposed budget here originally was for about almost a 13% budget increase. The city council went back and through what's called the errata process, eliminated another $1.2 million out of the budget by basically not reducing services, but taking out in those areas that they felt that they could take money out of the budget and reduce expenses overall for the city to reduce the actual budget increase down to strictly what was required, actually slightly below what was required for the Haberman lawsuit, which is something that came up. So when you say taking money out of the middle line, or I'm going to just assume that you're talking about operating expenses.
Operating expenses,
when you say
yes.
that. There was a 1.1, just over 1.2 million dollar reduction in our operating expenses alone. Actually, it was $2.4 million in operating expenses that were required to be raised that we did not raise, that we found ways to save money, whether it was through restructuring of business practices that we have or restructuring the allocation of staff. There was a lot of work that was put into this budget. So that's not something that this council or myself as a city manager, because I handed the budget in, really originally we were trying to do, with the exception of Haberman, being underneath the New York State tax cap of about 2.1%, which we achieved, and then the council felt that it was responsible for the taxpayers because of the large amount that was required for Haberman to reduce it even further to just what was necessary for Haberman. So what you said is actually been done.
what I think I heard you say, that you were able to find $2.5 million out of the budget? Is that what you said, or 1.5? I'm not sure.
It was 1.2 of operating, and then we did some restructuring of some other things. So, yeah, it was a very, 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 very long and difficult budget process. We had an unprecedented number of public meetings on it, and we really worked very hard to do it. So what you're saying is not something that we're ignorant to. I appreciate your comments.
My point was, we can, tap ourselves on the back and congratulate ourselves for having a higher rating, but it comes at a cost to the taxpayers. Yeah. So I'm interested to know what the middle line was cut and how much that we can all then say, hey, good job.
Well, there was a proposed and then an adopted budget that the comparison could be done on, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just add one other point to thing. As I said earlier in the night, this city was borrowing millions of dollars each year to basically buy paper clips and pay people. That was mortgaging this city, so your children and your grandchildren were going to be paying for something they got no benefit from whatsoever. A financially responsible government doesn't do that to its taxpayers. We don't put the burden for people's mistakes today on the people of tomorrow.
Maybe you should be talking to the guys in Washington, D.C., because that's where we're going to.
You're not going to get any disagreement there, but that is what we did. And did we have to make some ugly, tough decisions? Yes, and everybody up here pays taxes too. We don't get any breaks. So we made some tough decisions, but those tough decisions are going to benefit everyone down the line because we cleaned up a significant mess that nobody before us wanted to fix.
Bravo. Thank you.
Sandra Fieldler.
My name is Sandy Fiedler, and I'm here to find out why the City of Long Beach doesn't have any electric car charging stations.
Actually, Joe, we were talking to that
I realize that people that own homes could put them in themselves. We live in apartment buildings. There's no place to charge our cars, but every other town has them, but not us.
Well, that's not necessarily true, but... But
true.
I know what you're talking about, because we've talked to several companies about putting them in the
And you would
train
make
station.
money. You don't have to give it
and,
away for
so-
free.
well,
People do pay for it.
Joe's been working on it.
We're
I'll let
actively
him talk
investigating
about
that,
it.
yeah.
We actually solicited proposals. We put out a request for proposals to put our first vehicle charging stations right out here in front of City Hall between the new walkway and Park Avenue. We thought it was right next to the transit hub. There's electricity available in that area. We've received the proposals. We've actually narrowed it down to 2 finalists, and the next step is I was going to suggest that a work session be held so the council could actually hear the 2 highest rated proposals, have them give a presentation to the council, and both of them, I could say this, is that they both will do the work for nothing, and they vary on what they will offer the city as payment, but they will get revenues. Not as much as I thought it would be, but you will not have to pay for the installation, that's for sure. So it is something we're working on, and it will be right in this location, right next to the this new crosswalk that we put. It's going to be that whole area between Park Avenue and that crosswalk on the east side of Kennedy Plaza.
And you will be charging for it, though, right?
That's something we have to discuss. That's going to be part of the when they give their presentation on the proposal itself. That'll be negotiated.
Well, the other places don't charge, but the City of Long Beach should charge. You'll get some revenue out of it, because after a certain amount of years, they're saying that everyone has to have an electric car. But meanwhile, the people that live in buildings like me are stuck, and I drive by the Amazon store in Oceanside hoping someone's not plugged in, or I just have to hang around till they leave. And I think that the City of Long Beach would make money on it, because if a person has to wait for their car to charge, it's a minimum of maybe 2 hours to fully charge. Then they have to walk around, they'll spend money and give the City of Long Beach money. I hope you do install them, please.
Thank you. And actually, starting in
In that
20
one area, I have a sketch.
Joe, they're not yelling out.
And actually, starting in 2035, you can only buy electric cars in New York. You will no longer be able to buy gasoline-powered cars. At least that's the way the law is right now. So, Leon Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members, for the opportunity to speak to you. Leon Sutton, I live at...
Mr. Sutton, if you mind talking
Yes.
into the mic, thank you.
How is that? Is that better?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Good. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I live at 310 Franklin Boulevard. I'm a longtime Long Beach resident. I love Long Beach. My family moved here in 1945. I'd like to speak to you tonight about the Equinor project of erecting close to 200 wind turbines 14 miles offshore. My understanding is that the City Council voted sometime earlier this year to alienate Long Beach parkland that's necessary for the power cables to go through, and that without that alienation of the land, the project could not proceed. And I'm asking you to reverse that vote for the following reason. I hope I'm accurate on that. I'm getting that secondhand.
Your premise is wrong.
Oh, okay.
So let me just.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me explain. So, what we asked the state for was the parkland alienation. What that does is that gives the city the right to then decide if Equinor can bring the cable across our beach. That's what that does. So what happened, there's some, let's just say, not accurate information floating around out there. We asked this, so to get parkland alienation, the state legislature, the assembly and the Senate both have to okay that for parkland. So we asked them to do parkland alienation, so the decision about whether that cable can come across the beach resides here in Long Beach, not with a bunch of politicians up in Albany that couldn't even point to Long Beach on a map if you gave it to them.
Oh, very nice.
That's what we did. And now that the alienation has gone through, there is now a wall between Equinor and our beach that consists of the 5 people sitting up here.
Oh, wonderful.
And they are not, until they satisfy us that this is safe, this is not causing harm to anything or anybody, they're not getting anything, nothing.
Thank you.
That's what we were fighting for.
Thank
so
you.
don't
That's
believe
that.
everything you hear out there.
Thank you. That's so good to hear. Can I address a point that has not
right ahead.
Been addressed, I believe? These wind turbines, as I understand it, will be over 900 feet tall.
That is true.
I'm a physicist. I can do the calculation. If you're standing on our boardwalk, only the lower 50 feet, 50 feet, of the turbines will be below the horizon. Therefore, almost 900 feet will be visible, 200 almost of them, across the horizon. And at night, I understand that those turbines will have red and white blinking lights. So on a nice, cool summer night, sitting on the boardwalk on a bench, enjoying the breeze, I have a cacophony of blinking red and white lights. You know, Santa Barbara kept oil rigs way out off their beach. They succeeded in doing it offshore. We should be able to do it here. Do we want an industrial beach? And then you talk about our property values going down. If our beach gets a reputation as being, who wants to go there? You get all these blinking lights. It's really ugly. Da, 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 da. Our city will go down. And if I have a 25% probability of being correct, would you gamble 25%? To damage the city irreparably? So I'm hoping that you will stop that from happening. Let them put it 10 miles further
Mr.
west,
Sutton,
further east.
I just want to correct you on one thing.
Yes.
I'm right here.
Thank you.
We have absolutely nothing to do with that farm out there. The only thing that we're being asked is about the cable. The farm was the federal government and New York State. We have absolutely nothing to do. We can cry, scream, yell till we're blue in the face. We have no say in that. So I understand what you're saying, but the wind farm is a totally different issue than the cable. I understand and agree with you on the cable. The wind farm, that's not us. So I would suggest that you write to your federal government and try to get them to change their mind, because they're the ones that can do it. New York State, now I don't even know that New York State has that much power because the leases are from the federal government. And you have representatives, okay? Get them to try to do something.
Can I ask a question? If the cable is not allowed, would they simply reroute the cable all the way around Long
Absolutely.
Beach?
Did you read yesterday's paper where they're running a cable from Massachusetts to New York City, 230 nautical miles of cable? Not Equinor, it's a different wind farm. 15 miles off of Massachusetts. They're running it all the way through. Yes, there are a lot of other ways. The only thing we can speak about, the only thing we can try to protect is Long Beach.
Thank you.
Thank you. And David Shokrian.
Good evening, David Shokrian. You know, I have a suggestion. The election for City Council is about 3.5 months away. Could we put a proposition on the ballot asking the public to answer a question? Do you want the wires for windmills to go through Long Beach, yes or no?
I actually asked that question too.
I'm sorry, say it again.
I said I've actually asked our legal person that question too, if we could do that.
You know, City Council is the only one who could make that possible. The advantage of this proposition is that when the results come in, I would think over 90%, 94% of the people would say no. And the results would be certified by the Election Commission. You could take these results, send it to the judges who are overseeing Article 7, let them know that 95% of the people in this town do not want these wires to go through Long Beach. Send it to Albany and to New York State Governor and tell them, we will not cooperate with you. We have a moral obligation based on what the people of this town have said for wires not to come through. And send it to Equinor, tell them to keep their money and to keep their wires. Would you... You know, I have a couple of other points, but I want to save my time to, if possible, please, if members of the council, if anyone wants to make a comment on this, is anybody in favor of putting this proposition on the ballot? And if you are against it, and please explain why. Is anybody for this proposition?
I would be for it. I would need to know how we do it, but yeah, absolutely.
When there is a will, there is a way to do it. Mr. Lester.
Mr. Shokin, hold on a minute, please.
Yes.
Yes, I'd want to research the question a little further, but my understanding is that this would not be a proper question to put before the voters for a referendum.
By who says so? I mean, if a city council, you know, we are an independent city. If the members of the city council, for a matter which is going to impact generation after generation of people in this city, they want to ask the people in this city, what do you think? Why that's not proper to ask?
Because referendums are set forth in state law, and the state law specifies what questions can go before the voters. I don't believe that that question is a proper question, but I'll do some further research on it. I mean, it's the first time
My
I'm hearing
question is this. If it could be done, would the council support it? Ms. Posterli says she would support it. May I ask you, Mr. Lester, would you support the proposition so that you hear, so that we all know, so New York State knows, so Albany knows what people in this town think about these wires?
Of course I would support it, but I will tell you right now, I already know the answer.
We know the answer, but when the answer is certified by Election Commission, that makes the hand of the council much stronger in fighting back.
Oh, I don't believe that.
You don't believe that?
No, I believe that, you know, exactly what's happening here. The people are speaking. People are speaking all over town. They're not saying we don't want the windmills. Some are, some aren't. They're not saying we don't want green energy. They're saying we don't want your wire through this town. That's what they're saying. And you know what, to be honest, I have met very few people, very few, and I talk to a lot of people that say, oh, we want the wires. And when you talk to them about money, you know, most people are saying, we don't care how much money. It's not that. It's the wires. So, I mean, yeah, referendums do cost money. I believe...
This will not cost anything.
No, it does.
Yes, it does.
Why does it cost to add one line on that ballot?
But I believe, Mr. Shokin, I believe that our corporate counsel is correct, because one of the things we were looking at are referendums for the marijuana. And we can't do that. We can't put a referendum out. And that affects the entire town too. So, you know, if it's something we can do, listen, I love referendums. It's really letting the people talk. But if you can't do it and New York State won't do it, won't allow you, again, then you talk to your representatives and say, hey, change the law. You know, Charles Dickens once said, if the law says that, well, then the law's an ass. So.
Could we look into this to find
He is.
in 2 weeks
He
from
said
now?
he was.
He said he'll look into it.
Yeah.
And you know, even if for whatever reason we cannot put this on the ballot, you know, there is a way that you still could do it. Send a paper out with the name of every person on the voting rolls. Ask them that question. Send it to every address that we have on the voting rolls.
All right, Mr. Shokring, your time is up, so
Thank you.
thank you. All right, this one, the handwriting's a little tough. Anthony V. Maiell, 270 Shore Road?
Not here.
Okay. Brendan Finn.
Good evening, everybody. Mr. Shokrian took most of my wind, pardon the pun.
That's a good one.
But on that note, and you guys have all said, I believe, that you're opposed to the cables, every single one of you. Why not put it in writing and send it to the governor that you oppose it and that it's not going to happen here based on you being the elected government of Long Beach?
So there still seems to be maybe a lack of understanding of this process and how it works. So the reason we wanted the Parkland alienation was so that the decision resided here.
Right.
Now, there are people in this room that fought that and wanted the decision to stay up in Albany, which, quite frankly, would have been a huge mistake and would have not benefited the people of this city. Now that we have the Parkland alienation, what are you, smacking flies over there?
Yeah. And I got one.
Now that we have it, the decision is here. We don't need to consult with anyone else, get permission from it. It's our decision now.
Right.
And as I just said a little while ago, Equinor gets nothing until they come down here, and if they can convince people otherwise, God bless, but right now they get nothing.
Right. So I think everybody in this room would breathe a little bit easier if you would put it in writing and send it up to the governor, and then everybody would say, hey, we're all on the same page here. Right? Don't make, come on, you know what I'm saying.
Again, you're adding an unnecessary step into the process. We don't need to get the governor's consent, approval, anything at this point. They're done. They're done.
We're not asking for their approval. We're telling them that we're not doing it. I mean, that's what...
We don't have to tell them we're not doing it. We just don't do it.
We're going around in circles. Let me just ask one more question unrelated to that then. In terms of what Mrs. Bradish was saying before about the police on the boardwalk, I think that perhaps she was asking about maybe just a fixed post at certain hours between National and Long Beach Boulevard. You know, I mean, you do that with, you probably have a fixed post at the train station or on Park Avenue and National at times. So, when you know that there's problems, like you gave the example of a guy sledgehammering a doorway of a business. I mean, I have to think that's probably a commercial burglary or at least a reckless endangerment, but we won't go there right now. I would just say that a fixed post with a foot cop would certainly send a message to would-be hooligans. And I'm not saying all day, but the time. I'm not telling you your job because you know it better than I do. But
at times, I think that, maybe a little more innovative on the fixed posts. I mean, and I work at John Jay College, so I'm going to put it out to John Jay to see if we can get some more specials, maybe as interns, and get paid. I mean, if that works for you too. All right. What do you think?
With regard to the posting and putting somebody up there, at the times that it's been requested mostly, are some of the most busy times that we have, an evaluation of our calls for service. So taking somebody out of a patrol post and putting them on a fixed post for something that may or may not happen is not necessarily the best use of what we have. During the daytime hours, we definitely have officers up there, meaning the specials and stuff like that, with radios that can communicate back immediately.
I mean, a real deal, though. If we can get...
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Finn. I do. And I will tell you that the department is scheduled this year to go up from 68 to 71 officers. And I am working on a plan to bring the department up to 75, 76 officers, which would be an additional post. And one of the main things that additional post will be responsible for is specifically patrolling the boardwalk and the beach park. So it is not something that is deaf to the ears of your commissioner of police. It's been, this department, when I got here, was just recovering from being down to 56 police officers. And then through time, we've been building it back up. We don't just take anybody to be a police officer here in Long Beach. We take the best of the best. You'd be better off applying to Harvard or Yale, then you'd have a much better shot at getting in than getting here. And I'm very proud of that. And I just want to state to you that it's not something that I can do immediately. It is something that we are looking to do on a more long-term basis. We've even applied for grant funding from the federal government to cover the cost of police officers to be that type of community-style policing in the future. So we're working towards it very diligently. I'm not ignoring you. I'm not ignoring anything that's said here at all.
I understand what you're saying. But the word around town is that the boardwalk's not safe at certain hours at night, and that's when we want, the police presence up there, and a lot of people are saying it, that's all.
My mom and dad told me, if you're out past 11 o'clock, nothing good is happening. After 11 o'clock, go home. So, might be some advice that some of our parents could take.
I got somebody else telling me that, too. But
yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
One more question while I'm here, and I'll kill 3 birds with 1 stone. So the beach park doesn't open till 10 now on the weekdays. I'm sure you've done a cost analysis on it. Are we saving money by doing that? Because I know the lifeguards are not coming on till 10, and there's a safety factor, but it's probably limited. I don't know that. You probably know better than I do. But in terms of lost revenue, people aren't going to buy tickets anymore. They're going to figure, I could get down there at 9:30, 9:45. Yeah. I mean, they're already, on the weekends, they come and they're lining up. They're getting on the beach at 8 o'clock, and you know that. And this is how we can, generate some revenue for
So
the
just to
city.
address that in the misnomer that kind of put out, I don't want to let that lie. So the specials go down the beach and they check every single person on the beach when they get on duty. Every single person at 10 o'clock is checked for people, every one of them. Some people are checked 4 and 5 times a day, which is getting aggravating, so I'm trying to get them to them. So I'm trying to get them to try and be a little bit more fastidious in how they're checking, but they're definitely checking for beach passes. So we have very few people getting on the beach who don't have beach passes. Yes, it does save money. Just the 2-hour reduction in the people in the booths is $90,000 a year for the summer, approximately. So that was one of the reasons why we did that. We've also worked very hard with our lifeguards in their contract to remove the guaranteed hours. One of the reasons why this wasn't done before is because the lifeguards had 48 hours of guaranteed time, so they might as well come in at 8:30 in the morning and man the beach all day. Now that's been reduced so that they don't have guaranteed hours anymore. We get to schedule them for a 40-hour work week. So we're able to adjust the hours of the beach and when the lifeguards come on duty. We do have crews that come in at 9 o'clock and are patrolling, the emergency crews are patrolling the beach every day, 9 o'clock, to ensure that nobody's in the water and nobody gets hurt.
That nobody goes in the water?
Nobody goes in the water before no lifeguards on duty, no swimming. Yep.
Well, that's not good for anybody in Long Beach then. You want to go in the water before you go to work?
That's been standing for as
right,
long
but
as
that
that
was
code
9
has been
o'clock.
on the books forever. That
was
been there
9
forever.
o'clock. Now it's 10 o'clock? During
no,
the week?
No lifeguards, no swimming. Yes.
That's ridiculous.
Well, lifeguards go on
That's
at 9 on
ridiculous.
the weekends, right?
Same as Far Rockaway and Jones Beach. Yes. And the other thing is on the weekends, Mr. Finn, you do know that from Friday, Saturday, it's all 9 o'clock, and so holidays. Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew, that's all.
All right, Anita Bachrach? Bachrach, sorry.
Let's see how tall I am. Hi. Good evening, everybody. I was going to talk about my taxes, the tax bill that I got today. But I'm a little confused about this windmill thing, to be quite honest. A gentleman got up just now in a suit, and he was talking about boring and different things, getting ready for the windmills. Mr. Bendo, you said that we're not getting any cable. Mr. Lester, you said we have no choice, that Albany has decided that we're going to get these turbines. The gentleman, I'm sorry.
I didn't say that. I said the federal government.
The federal government.
Yes.
So I know the federal government made a law, because I attended some of these meetings with Equinox in 2017 when I wasn't paying attention. But it doesn't seem quite right that someone's boring and then we're going to decide, and I'm really kind of confused about what's going on. Are we getting these turbines? And the other thing I have to say is, at the meeting, I took up the fact that I live off Lincoln Boulevard, which is a direct line, to Mount Sinai Hospital. And when I said that, 15 suits looked at me and said, we didn't know that. We didn't know that was a direct line to the hospital, emergency, and we didn't know that's an evacuation route. So I don't know who's in charge, but it's pretty scary. I sit in my living room, and I see the ambulances going to Mount Sinai. And these gentlemen from Norway, or wherever they are, out of the world, whatever they are, don't even know our town, our city. I live here 25 years. And it's very difficult for me to get up. I'm kind of shy. But I have to say that turbines out there are going to reduce your real estate. I am a real estate broker also, guilty. But I am a homeowner. And I feel that this whole thing has gotten out of hand. What I was going to talk about, I hope I have another minute, is the fact that I got my bill. And it says that I'm penalized for Haberman and Paperman, and that my tax bill is going up at 10%. And the assessment of my home. I can't afford my home today if I had to buy it. And this assessment is about 3 times the amount of when I purchased. So what we're going to have here is people that only can afford 10% more every year for the next 10 years. And what kind of town are we going to have? City.
No, I'm not sure what you...
I'm not sure what I'm reading. I called the city assessor. They told me to bring it to council meeting. But I think I'm more upset about the windmills than I am about my money.
Okay. So I'm not sure what you want to...
So I want you to explain to me why this man got up, and he's boring. You're telling me we don't have cables that are running through, that we stopped it. You stonewalled it. Mr. Lester says that Albany has put turbines on,
right,
so I'm really confused.
Federal government,
Let
again,
me-
the federal government.
Let me back up and explain.
Okay.
So if you're kind of just getting into this now, so the way this very convoluted government process works to do this is out in the ocean beyond 3 miles, that's the jurisdiction of the federal government. So a few years ago, I guess it was around 2017 or so,
Right. Mhm.
the federal government started selling leases of chunks of ocean to these companies to come in and build wind farms. That was done by the federal government, by the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management.
Okay.
Now, to get the electricity, if they build those to the shore, you need a cable. The cable, once it gets within 3 miles of the shore, now falls under the state's jurisdiction, because
Okay.
that's state waters.
Okay, another
So
level.
the
Go ahead.
state controls that. Once it gets to our beach, then it becomes a city issue.
Okay.
For us to get control of whether that cable can come across, we needed the state to give us something called parkland alienation, which gives us the right to decide if they can come across our beach, which is what we just got.
Okay.
So as far as going across the beach, that is now our decision. So
is it disconnected?
I just used the word "our."
So, Mr. Bendo,
So-
is it disconnected because the cable's not coming through the beach, or it's going in a different route?
What do you mean by the?
Well, you need the cable in order to hook up, correct?
Right. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to get the cable up to the Barrett Power Station in
Yes, I
Island
know.
Park,
Yeah,
because that's where
the hookup is. The substation.
that's the distribution
The
network
substation.
goes out from there. So they're talking about building a substation
Yes.
in Island Park,
Yes.
which would then go, the
To
wires
Brooklyn.
would go
Right,
to
okay.
the Barrett Station. So that's then becomes a town of Hempstead issue and other things. The way the process unfortunately works is you go 3 miles east of us and you got empty parkland in Lido
Yes,
that they could go across.
yes.
The state makes it so much red tape and so difficult and so expensive to get permission to go across the parkland. They've actually made it easier to go through people than through the parkland. Basically, they've decided piping plovers and weeds are more important than people. Doesn't make any sense, but that's the way the state works. Another possibility would have been to take the cable through the water, through the Jones Beach Inlet, and go up Reynolds and stay under Reynolds Channel. There's, again, a bunch of other ridiculous reasons they can't do that. So
Well, who's speaking? Is that the government, the federal or state? Who's speaking
once
with that?
once it gets here into Reynolds Channel, that's the state. That's the
state. Oh,
State
we're up to the
Department of Environmental Conservation. So basically what you have is you have one state agency, NYSERDA, which is the New York State Energy Research and Development Agency, that's pushing these wind farms and wants to do them. And you have another state agency, the Department of Environmental Conservation, which is saying the only place we want you to take a cable is through the middle of a populated town or city,
Well, does that
which
make
makes no
sense?
sense
Does that make-
whatsoever.
Okay.
Makes no sense whatsoever. So you got two state agencies that are basically conflicted with each other.
And we're in the middle?
And they can't get their act together, and we're stuck in the middle.
So where do we direct our energy? Instead of copying and getting excited, where do we direct our energy?
You could direct it to state representatives. Now, our
No,
state
the one that you
representative,
just said, I'm so sorry, I didn't memorize it. The one that you said?
NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Agency.
remember
But,
that.
I would direct them to the governor's office, quite frankly. You can't get much higher than that. But that, and again, that goes back to where I keep talking about this parkland alienation. By getting that now, we now control the decision of if they can come across our beach.
I know I'm a parent.
That is what
I
we
appreciate
wanted.
that, but how do we follow up with that to make sure that wall stands,
That what stands?
That wall of stop, the dead end that you just put up, the one that you just fought for? How do we follow it up and make sure that stands and that it's not going to be rescinded?
Well, I legally, the state, we are told, could, in theory, it would be unusual, but could overrule us and condemn the land and take it. And if that's
By,
the case,
by
we
eminent domain?
would probably have a legal fight on our
That's
hands.
eminent domain, is that how they're
That's
gonna take
basically eminent domain.
It's a little bit more complicated than eminent
it's what I
domain
understand,
because,
Mr. Lester.
because
I know
it's
you're an
an
attorney, and I'm
easement.
not.
It's what's called an easement, which is easier to get than an eminent domain because
So
they're
what
not
is your
taking the
feeling,
land.
everybody? Are we going to have to fight this to the end?
It depends what,
We hope not.
but it depends what you're fighting too. If you're fighting the windmills, you have to go with the federal government. If you're fighting the line, you go with New York State. If you're fighting just going through Long Beach, that's what you're doing here.
I'm fighting the whales, to be honest with you. Okay?
Okay, thank you. All right, Alyssa DeLucia.
Hello. So, my name is Alyssa. I grew up in Island Park. I now live in Long Beach, and I am a teacher in Island Park. The first thing I did when I bought my house in Long Beach was install a full house water filtration system because I value my health in a lot of different ways. I'm very upset and completely oppose this Equinor project. The more that I read, the more upset I become, especially due to the possibility of these cables being installed down my block where I live, which is Lincoln Boulevard. I am pleading for this project to not run through residential streets and not be approved in these two towns. There is no research proving the safety of something like this. We are already living in a toxic soup all around us that we can't control. As I was walking in here, I was handed a flyer. It claims that the EMF levels are below the allowable levels of exposure. But what that really is extra exposure to the EMFs that we are already exposed to all around us. Once we add up all of that exposure, we are above the acceptable levels, and that's where all of our disease is coming from. For our safety, I truly hope that we can oppose this project. I've obviously have learned a lot sitting here for the past few hours, and I will take my fight elsewhere with the state. I just truly hope that Long Beach can really pull together and say no to this, not allow this, not allow these cables through our town. It's dangerous.
Excuse me. Tim Kramer.
Wait, Tim, before you come up, excuse me, does anyone have one of these flyers that were given out? May I see it? Thank you. Okay, thank you, Tim.
Hi, Tim Kramer, 361 East Broadway, Long Beach, New York, 11561. Just a comment to the gentleman from Equinor that came up here and couldn't give his name and address. Sir, you are a coward. And I'd be embarrassed for you, but in any event. So the beach was already protected parkland. It's protected parkland that cannot be touched unless you do initiate an alienation, okay? So by doing so, by initiating this, it puts the city in a position now that it got passed, that it puts the city in a position now to negotiate with Equinor on a community benefits package. Now you're saying there's no way in the world this is going to happen. It stops here. It's not going to come through our town, and on and on and on. And then you say, unless they can convince the public that it's safe. Okay? And that's where the rub is. That's where the problem is. Okay? And my wife emailed everybody on this panel, everyone, a sheet that says, we do not want this cable coming through our town no matter what. And none of you signed it, which is very alarming. None of you, not one of you signed it. And I got a big problem with this. You're saying one thing that it's not going to happen, and yet maybe the state could overrule us, maybe if the Equinor will convince us, and all, there's loopholes all over the place with this. We have over 5,000 signatures, and this goes to Mr. Shortgreen's point with the referendum. We have over 5,000 signed petitions at this point of people saying we don't want the cable, we don't want the windmills, we don't want any of it, okay? So that's your referendum right there, okay? And we're getting more all the time. We just got another 50 or 60 here tonight. Okay, nobody wants this. I don't understand why you people up on this stage very simply can't say no matter, if they offered us $100 million, we don't want it. We don't want it. It's that simple. And there's no, it doesn't make sense to me. This is an easy one. And I'll tell you something else. Get off on another point real quick. Cablevision has Wi-Fi on the boardwalk, right? You go on the boardwalk, Cablevision, boom, comes up on your phone. So unless you're with Cablevision or not, you got to get off that to make, make phone calls or what have you. If you went to Cablevision and said, look, give us some money for the security cameras or remove this Wi-Fi from our boardwalk. I mean, that would be a phone call I'd make tomorrow morning. Get on Cablevision and demand that they cover the expense for the security cameras on the boardwalk because they're getting a financial benefit out of it, right?
I don't think that's legal.
Well, and
How is that not? You said it yourself, Mr. Walsh. That's called capitalism. Remember capitalism? Call them up.
I'm sorry, Tim, can you just explain how they're getting a financial benefit by giving Wi-Fi?
If I go on the boardwalk with my phone, it automatically goes to Cablevision on my Wi-Fi.
Right.
And then, so I have to turn my Wi-Fi off. I have to turn that off in order for my phone to operate normally. So there's a financial gain there somehow for
cellular. In order for the cellular to, excuse me, please.
So there's a financial gain for Cablevision because everybody that goes up on the boardwalk, it gets bumped onto their system. So unless you're not on their system.
Right, but I still don't understand how by supplying Wi-Fi you get a financial benefit. If Cablevision was selling you something, I can understand that. But allowing you to use Wi-Fi, I mean, if my neighbor happens to pick up my Wi-Fi,
you have to be
I don't get anything.
You have to be on their you have to be part of their system, okay?
To use it. Yeah.
To use that Wi-Fi, you have to sign up for it. It's
right.
So Roy, let me just jump in here for 1 second. The use of and the ability to put those Wi-Fi things are on their own lines in their permissible space that they pay a franchise tax to do. So in order to run those cables, in order to put up that equipment, it's in a space on those poles that they pay a tax in order to put them up. So they already pay for that. It's not free. Like we literally get what's called a franchise tax money for any utility, including cable, when they run anything through here. Just to tie it into something like that you're passionate about, the money that we would get if the cable came through Long Beach is a franchise tax. Cablevision pays a franchise tax to have those things up on their pole. Literally, those hotspots are already paid for. So, whether people know that or not, I'm just giving you the information.
Getting back to my main thing here.
Tim, your time was actually up a while ago.
Equinor needs to take their bird blenders and go home, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer Serafin.
They didn't come out very clear. Hi, Dave. How are you? Sorry that they're not clearer. I had to print them off the internet, but one is the letter that you sent to Albany, and the other one is home rule. I'm going to continue on Tim's thing. And I'm sorry, Mr. Lester, I am going to reference our phone conversation. I hope that's okay with you. I am going to read home rule about Parkland. I don't even have to, it's there, but basically when you initiate home rule, nobody has the land. The land is untouchable, basically, when you go to home rule. You initiate home rule, you open up the land. So that land was untouchable. So you keep saying all this stuff that they're playing politics, Mr. Bendo. You're the one who's playing politics. And I'm being very honest because I've done a ton of research in the last 2 weeks. Okay? I want to know who spoke to the council, you or was it the entire board?
Who spoke
to council that told you that you needed to alienate that land? Was it you or the entire city council?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
The lawyers that told you you needed to alienate that land to be protected, was it all of you or just you? You told us, all of us here, 2 weeks ago.
We voted on it. The entire council voted on it.
You voted on it because you were advised by your council.
Correct.
That was the way to go. Did everybody hear that or just you?
Of course everybody heard it. Why would we vote on it if everyone
Okay.
didn't hear it?
Okay, well, I had a conversation with Mr. Lester that he did not hear that or feel that that was the best way to go. That's why he didn't sign that letter. Is that correct, Mr. Lester?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you
I didn't
explain
say I
that
didn't
to
hear
everybody
that.
here tonight?
I said I didn't think it was the best way to go.
And because once you open up that land, it is now easier for the state to take it from you. Did you know that?
I'm sorry, but I just want to, and I understand where Mr. Benno's coming from. I just want to read you from the Senate resolution. It says, subject to the provisions of this section and sections 5 through 9 of this act, the city of Long Beach is hereby authorized, acting by and through its governing body and upon such terms, and this is where Mr. Benno's coming from because he's right about this.
Okay.
And upon such terms and conditions as determined by and in the sole discretion of such governing body to temporarily discontinue. In other words, he is right that according to the law, it's in the sole discretion of the city.
But before that, nobody could touch the land.
Well, you know what, and I want to get that straight because people think that it can't be touched. We've talked about eminent domain, we've talked about condemnation, and I have looked at the cases. And the other thing nobody's really talked about is an easement. And an easement is so much easier to get because you're not taking the land, you're going through the land.
But they can't take it by easement before the alienation bill.
Yes, they can. Absolutely.
I thought that was only after the alienation bill.
Nope, you can take it by easement at any time, once you get,
Once you get the alienation.
No, the alienation, you can get the easement without the alienation.
So going for this alienation bill didn't open us up to anything new?
Not as long, it's, as I said, in the sole discretion. In the sole discretion.
But before we did anything, the land was not alienated. It was just left.
It was not alienated.
Okay, so nobody could have done anything with it at that point.
They could not have done it with the permission of the city. In other words, if they wanted the permission of the city, they needed the alienation.
But again,
what I'm saying is you don't need, and you got to, because people might be coming years from now and saying, oh, you could have stopped it. If it's done, if the state decides that they're going to condemn the land and use an easement.
Agreed. Okay, but what was the problem with waiting until this project was approved or closer to approvement? What we were saying and what the senator was saying, everybody was saying is, why did you open? Now they think that you gave them the green light, and Equinor thinks that you gave them the green light to negotiate.
Equinor doesn't think we gave the green light.
Absolutely not.
No, that is what has been going on for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. That is what went on in that whole assembly. If you read it, if you look at the letter, if you listen to the tapes.
Yeah, look at the letter. You seem to be trying to make this letter into something it's not. What that letter said is, we want the control here in Long Beach. And quite frankly, you and some of your supporters wanted the decision to stay in Albany.
That's not true.
I don't want Albany politicians making this decision. This is a decision for the residents of Long Beach.
Nobody wanted the decision in Long Beach.
Well, that's what you guys were advocating for.
We were advocating for a no decision. You're not willing to give that
No
to us.
decision leaves the decision in Albany.
No, I'm saying no. We don't want the land given to anybody.
Ms. Sarafin, if I could just say something.
Okay.
Just try to add a little bit, maybe, of more comfort. It's been difficult. It's a very difficult project to even talk about, right? Very passionate. The New York State Legislature, both houses now, have said Long Beach has the sole discretion as to whether or not they're going to grant alienation. Let me just finish. It would be reversing themselves at this point for them to go through condemnation. it is this body's opinion, as I've been in on the conversations, that the most protective stance that this council could take for the city residents of Long Beach is to take any decision-making out of Albany's hands and put it here so that they can't do what Mr. Lester was just saying. When I tell you that this council is trying to protect this city, I can tell you affirmatively that nothing is going to come through this city unless they want it, and right now, they don't want it.
Then why is it always right now?
Okay.
Why will they not give us that no when
Because,
we keep asking
because
for it?
like Mr. Bendo said, and I'm going to pull myself out of the conversation after this answer, like Mr. Bendo said, right now, they have nothing unless we take an affirmative vote. There's nothing that can be done to this council to force it. The only thing that can be done to this council to force it is if a new council came and decided to give it.
You understand why the
So-
trust is not there. You get
I
that,
understand
right?
what you're saying. I just wanted to answer your question to hopefully it gave a little more clarity. That's all.
And I need Mr. Lester again to explain why he didn't sign that letter for everybody to understand it, because it's very.
Exactly what you said. I did not want them taking my signature and saying, oh, he supports it. Even though what Mr. Bendo says is completely correct, it does give control. I don't trust him, okay?
Exactly, and we don't either.
Well, that's why I didn't
That's
sign.
it. You
All right.
understand that.
Christina Kramer.
Good evening, Christina Kramer. So I just want to add a little clarity to that. If the city council did not initiate alienation, our land was protected. If I went to legal counsel and I said, what is the best way to protect the residents of the community from the possible catastrophe of cables, that council member should have said, do nothing. That was the answer. I don't know who you spoke to or what first names of council. That was the answer. I understand you believe now you have control, but you had it before. Juno was another project. They were Ann Barrick, and they were running cables, and they decided not to use Long Beach because it would have been a harder process to get state approval. They knew it, and your council should have known it. That's all I want to say about that.
I'm the one who told you about Embark.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you did mention it, but I didn't find it out from that day. That was just another source that came to me. But now that you're saying that, I remember you did mention it outside of the temple.
Outside of the
Yep,
temple.
I remember that. Thank you. So I'm no longer interested in asking questions or begging you people for help. You flip-flop, you change your mind, you sign, you don't sign. I understand my mission is now to see to it that this administration is replaced. It looks like we're off to a good start. I want to congratulate James Hodge. I know you're not here, but congratulations on your primary win. And since you basically called me a schizophrenic in public, I think we can speak frankly now. Christina number 1, Christina number 2, Christina number 3. Your memory? Yes. Okay, good. So I wasn't really that upset about that whole situation, but the community was really upset about it. I received phone calls, letters, text, lots of information. So in light of me just trying to expose this administration as corrupt, I have a question for Ms. Treston. Also information that I received. It's my understanding that Charles Moose Gussler, who is Jace Gussler's brother, is planning to retire from the paid fire department and receive a payout for over $300,000. Following his retirement, I was told he will be immediately rehired by the city to work as a carpenter at the rec center under the CSE, specifically because there are benefits provided that union's pension system that he wants to have in his retirement. It's worth noting that Charles, along with Jay, was a lead contractor involved in the construction of Ms. Treston's house, which was built at no profit, according to the Long Beach Herald. That they held a fundraiser for Mr. Bendo and Liz Treston at their home. This raises questions about whether there was any orchestration involved with Charles securing his new position. It would be beneficial to inquire about this. Please clarify any concerns regarding favoritism towards the paid firefighters involved in the construction of your home.
Personnel matters cannot be discussed.
Well, she didn't recuse herself from the Jay Gusler case. I'm
I'm
lining the path.
myself from the decision under advice of corporate counsel.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Under advice of corporate counsel, I asked if I should recuse myself, and they said no.
Well, corporate counsel also said to go ahead and alienate the property. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Karen Reiskin?
Good evening. Karen Riskin. Just a little something that I wrote today. And it says a lot about what's going on tonight. The residents of Long Beach chose you for City Council. We believed you would represent our communities to the best of your abilities. We believed that we could trust you with the variety of issues. But that didn't happen. Instead, you put your profit ahead of the community, the lives in the community. An offer came before your desks, and you felt like you are God and signed a paper to begin a serious relationship with a company that has questionable motives. This should have been discussed with us. This is too large a decision for 4 selfish city council members. Equinor has been playing chess games with us, but we know that they are, and they enjoy thinking that they are deceiving us. But we are smart, and you are allowing Equinor to treat community as a testing ground. They told us at a meeting, and it is recorded, that we recorded, this will absolutely have a negative effect. They were saying, treat our community as a testing ground, which means they're playing around with us. They're trying a new method or something. This will absolutely have a negative effect on businesses, and of all types, piece by piece. Now, I do have a question from before is, if we're still deciding on things with the cable, why is Equinor breaking up the street on Laurelton? That really doesn't make any sense. Why should they have anything to do with our properties until we've making final decisions?
So I think what you're referring to is they did a soil boring in 4 places in the city back in 2022, and they are...
Why were they doing that then?
You'd have to ask our Public Works Commissioner what they were doing.
I mean, this is ridiculous. They're breaking up our land.
Well, they didn't break up they drilled a hole, a 6-inch hole.
Oh, I've had them for my home, but like...
So they're now going back and putting more permanent fixes in rather than just patch the little hole.
They shouldn't have touched it to begin with.
The test pits are part of their exploratory, the borings, to locate underground facilities in the area.
I'm familiar with that, what it is.
That's what.
But why should they be
that's
doing
what
it
is.
now? We don't have any, they don't have any right with us yet. They'd like it, but
No. They applied for a permit in my office to obtain a permit to the borings.
why did you give it to them?
Because as per discussion with the city council, the city corporation
Okay,
council.
so why did you allow
we
the
can't
permit?
deny giving a permit.
We don't have anything to do with giving out the permit.
He
Yeah.
just said that.
No, with
He
our
said
office.
the Corporation Council, the
Yes.
lawyer, the city's lawyer.
The city's lawyers that doesn't know anything. He doesn't seem like he knows anything.
All right, well, then if you're going to just sit here and insult, then...
No, I'm just trying to get the facts.
So...
You know, I've lived in Long Beach for 35 years, and on occasion I said to my husband, you know what, I might like to move to a larger house because my house is kind of small, land is small, but I live at the head of a canal that I absolutely love. And honestly, that's worth staying. Plus the idea of family. Long Beach is a family. We're not going to have any family. And if I make one more note in respect to the cables, I'm a cancer patient, and I am really having a big problem with this cable because I'm afraid it's going to reactivate it, and I'm going to have my cancer back.
Okay.
And that's not something that I'd like to live with.
Duly noted. Kathleen Sullivan. Okay. Jamie Lynch.
Good evening to the council. I trust that you all received my email Sunday that I forwarded. I didn't get a response, but that's okay. That's kind of what I said. I'd come down and talk about it. I want to try and give you a ground ball here. I want to save the mammals. There's a lot of talk about cables going one way, going the other way, who's going to benefit from it financially, who's going to cut their best deal. So that there's a lot of group, and they're all passionate. There's one thing that cannot be overlooked. There's 98 dead mammals since December, washing up on the Jersey Shore, one just last week in Atlantic Beach, one in March in Lido. I'm asking the council if they could please formulate a letter and ask them to stop the mapping. It won't stop the project by any means. We're a couple of years away from that. I'm just pointing to what's going on down in Jersey. I follow it very closely. Very closely. And they've got problems all over the place. So many counties, 30 mayors. Now it's up to 67. 3 counties said plain and simple to Orsted, we don't want anything to do with you. That's a different story. I want to save the mammals. I think that's an admirable thing, and I don't even know where all these environmentalists are. They seem to have crawled off somewhere. And I don't know why I've got to be the guy because I was never an environmentalist. But, you know, I got my kids coming to me and telling me, Dad, you know people, you do things in this town. Why don't you do something about it? So here I am. I told you I was going to be here, and I just want to know, can you please? And I'm not here to bully anybody or cause disruption. I think this is a ground ball, and I think it's very simple. And it doesn't put you in any kind of legal jeopardy. That you say, we're concerned about what's going on. Granted, there's no scientific proof. Okay? We all hear it. But they're not looking for it. They're not looking for it. We all know that if you want to do something like this, you have to, with the whales at least, you have to do a scan of their ear bone, which deteriorates in 4 days, so forth and so on. But there's a problem out there, and these things are washing up all over the place. What are we going to do? You're going to have mayhem, and it's going to happen when one washes up here. So I'm asking this council, can you formulate a letter and join your partners in New Jersey in saying that we want to stop this till it's explored by an independent party, not a party that took money from Equinor. Is that possible?
I can't speak for the others. I would support that.
Well, see, there you go. I appreciate that. I won't ask the others, Roy. You're on your computer. I don't want to interrupt you. But, you know, my point is plain and simple.
Yeah.
Can you come together in support of something like that? This is like right in front of us. It's right in front of us. The other things that we're talking about, the reroute of cables, so forth and so on, is coming down the line. And I give those people a lot of credit. It's admirable. And I'm not going to be harsh here, but I'm going to tell you something. If you want to know when you lost this town was when you loaded this place up and gave this hall, this government building, to CCE, the community. That's the problem. John, this is Concerned Citizens, Adrian Esposito, and that whole group.
yeah.
It landed up being a work fair for the unions, okay? And you know that was wrong, John? You all fought against ISTAR. Well, now, here you are trying to do admirable things, but here's your ISTAR. It's in front of you again. So you got to understand, this is why people are upset. And they're passionate about it. You guys were the same way. So give them a little room to breathe. Of course you want decorum, and you have to have decorum, but you can't threaten to arrest everybody. It's not going to work. What I'm asking is this. Could you please take some time and think about it? I could forward you information regarding the Marine Protection Act, Marine Mammal Protection Act.
I'll give you a call tomorrow.
I greatly appreciate that. We used to talk all the time.
Yeah, I'll give you a call. By
Very
the
good.
way, just, I don't know if, are you speaking on behalf of yourself or the chamber?
No, I'm speaking on behalf of myself.
Okay.
The other thing there is some good news. If I was
Well, you
allowed
can't
to say
speak
something.
twice, so-
No, but I'm speaking as the Chamber of Commerce.
So what?
All right, so I'm speaking as the Chamber of Commerce. If you want, it's the next one up.
No, you can't, you can only speak
Oh,
once.
I can't?
Yeah.
Oh, so you don't want me to tell you the good news that the Chamber got a $10,000 grant to help the city?
No, don't say, don't say that.
I'll talk to you about it tomorrow.
I'll talk to you
All right?
tomorrow.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much, and I appreciate your time and consideration that we could possibly come together with something on this letter. Thank you.
Kelly Martinson.
I'm going to be home watching Netflix. Kelly Martinson, I had a whole bunch I wanted to share with you. There's a really, really depressing study in fetal abnormalities that was published in May, and it will horrify you. And I was going to tell you all about it and read you the conclusion, but I sat here in the last 2 hours and I have questions. So my first question is, John, you keep saying, we're going to see if they can convince us, or if they can convince us. So what have I not done? I mean, I've convinced everybody else. So I can bring you a study, I promise you. I did this for a living, and there'll be good, clean studies. I'm not the expert. The expert on the fetal abnormality study, I can give you their names. Their names are Patel, Mordaki. I mean, they're the experts. They're non-biased. Anybody who comes up here that I've heard at a meeting that has said they want it, they're biased. I could get a job. Oh, I got this great, donation to my charity. I am not biased. These investigators are not biased, and I can get you more and more. But this takes time. This takes hours and hours and hours of my personal time to pull a study that I feel proud of, that I feel like I can share it with you. So what would it take? So what is out there in your mind that you think they could convince you with?
Convince me of
You said,
what?
unless Equinor can prove to us that this is safe. So I feel like I did a great job proving to you that it isn't. So just to make my job easier, because this is a job, what do I need? Like, what else? You said, unless they can prove that it's safe. So how can they do that? How can they do that?
I have no idea how they can do that, and that's why I said right now they get nothing.
So you're saying, so I guess that's the loophole. That's what everybody's afraid of. The right now.
Stop, because if, people are allowed to change their minds if
I
they
agree.
get new facts.
Agreed.
If they get new facts.
Agreed.
So don't try to say you can never change your mind.
I totally agree.
I don't see it right now, and I would love to see your study. I don't see it, but you know what? You can't do that. Gandhi once said, it was a great quote, that somebody asked him, how can you say one thing one week and something else the next week? And he said, because I learned something during that week.
I agree.
All right?
I'm just trying to figure out what he's looking for. I guess that's my question. I'm not saying he can't change his mind. I'm just saying, what would it take to change his mind? So I'm going to leave that question, but I'm also going to point out something else, because I came here, and this is making me crazy, guys, from Equinor. They wrote in print, my dad always used to say, a lie is really bad, but a lie in writing is proof. In writing, they say here that the WHO, the World Health Organization, says EMF causes no harm. I don't understand why this is even still dialogue. In 2011, the World Health Organization says it is potentially carcinogenic. So this is really scary that we could even consider having any relationship with these people. So here's my study on fetal abnormalities. 1 milligus. That's all it was linked to increasing the fetal abnormalities and to increasing cancer for pregnant women. That Riverside Beach is the home of a camp for children. Guess who brings kids to camp? Pregnant moms. They bring their other kids to the camp. So this, I want to hand it over because you guys got to read it. And that's really it.
Okay.
Thank you, Kelly.
And Kevin Martinson.
Kelly, can you email that study?
Yeah, if you have it electronically, please email it.
That would be.
Come on, John. I mean, what are we waiting for here? It's getting kind of crazy. I cannot sit here and believe that doing home rule gave you more power. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. You have to explain to me who in Albany would get the power. If you didn't do home rule, who in Albany would get the power?
The Senate and the Assembly.
So the Senate and Assembly would come in here and do an easement and take that beach.
They could.
Wouldn't that be an amazing overreach by the state?
Probably.
And wouldn't that put egg on their face?
Probably.
So why are we playing games here? We all, just be honest with us. The reason you did home rule is you want to negotiate more money.
No, that is completely not true.
I hope not. I'm hoping not, but this is what I'm seeing.
See, this is where I get really confused by...
Why?
You guys are attacking the people that
I'm not
are
attacking
trying
you.
to protect this city. Leaving it up in Albany meant, and Albany's controlled by Democrats who want this, who want these wind farms. They have super majorities up there, okay? So if our state assemblyman and senator could have stopped this, they would have. But they could not because they're in the minority. I'm not going to speak for them. I do not trust Albany politicians. I do not want to even give them the opportunity to ram this down our throats. Now, why people don't understand that, I can't say it any clearer. I cannot say it any clearer. The decision belongs here with the people of this city. That's what we fought for. That's what we got. If you can't believe that, I don't know what else to say, because then you're looking, what did Kellyanne, the one who used to work for Trump, call them alternative facts? So the simple fact is the decision belongs here with the people of this city. That's where it is now. So anything else was leaving it to chance up in Albany, and I don't trust that.
So the first preferred route on this, and we can ask the Equinor people here, from what I read, the first preferred route was through Lido West. That was the first preferred. That's where they wanted to take it first.
I don't know where you read that. The application I read.
It was in the construction. It was in the construction plans. Lido West was one of the routes. If Lido West was one of the routes, then why didn't the town of Hempstead do home rule to protect themselves?
Well, first of all, let's a little
because
history
town of
here.
Hempstead is not getting it. We're getting it
Let's do
now.
a little history here. The reason we're in this situation is because the mayor of Island Park, Mayor McGinty, in 2019 sent a letter with Todd Kaminsky, sent a letter to the president of Equinor asking for this, asking to put the substation in Island Park and asking which meant the cable had to come across here, and they didn't even tell Long Beach. So meanwhile, I don't see anyone going up to Mayor McGinty or Don Clavin saying, how come you're not opposing this? Because they're the ones who asked for it. We didn't ask for it. We're the ones trying to protect our residents, and you guys are attacking us for it.
Am I attacking you, really?
You personally are not, no.
Okay, well.
So I don't understand why people aren't
I'm asking
banging on Mayor McGinty's door saying,
Because he has
"Tell
no power
Equinor
right
we
now.
don't
He
want
doesn't have
this."
any power to do anything right now. You guys have all the power to do something.
In fact, Island Park has already given their wish list to Equinor of what they want.
Well, let's forget about Island Park for a
Well,
second.
no, you can't forget about Island Park because that's why we're in this situation.
But we have to work on what's going on.
So now,
We're the
we'll
solution,
clear the room
though.
out if you're going to keep this up.
John, we're the solution, though, now. We are
You're
the
right.
solution.
You're right.
So
right now, it resides with us where it should be.
Okay, so let me ask you a question then. Why don't we just do an ordinance and say we're not going to do it? What are we waiting for? If you're not waiting for money to find out how much you're going to get, let's say no now.
So you're looking for some kind of symbolism that says we're not going to allow it. It's unnecessary at this point because by doing nothing, they can't do anything. They're not.
Let me just ask you another question, okay? Let me just ask, because this goes to why you're asking why we don't trust what's going on right now. On June 9th, you guys sent a letter saying that you didn't want to do home rule, and then on June 10th, you sent a letter that you want to do home rule, and Roy didn't sign it.
Okay, so do you want to know why?
Yes.
I'll tell you exactly why. Because on June
What
9th,
happened in those 24 hours? That's what I want to know.
On June 9th, Ari Brown called down here. Ari Brown called down here and told us what the Albany Democrats were trying to do. And we said, that's complete bull, trying to do that end run. So working with Ari, we sent the notice up to Albany saying, we do not want you to vote on this until we figure out what the hell you guys are trying to do. That's why we did it. And then over the course of the next 2 weeks, we found out that Ari and Patricia were not going to allow the Parkland alienation to go forward. They were going to try to block it, which meant we then no longer had the control of the decision, that it stayed in Albany. That was not acceptable to us. We spoke to our lawyers. Our lawyers said they could use condemnation to take the land if they really want it bad enough. The safest thing to do was to get the decision down here with us. Now, there may be people in this room that don't agree with our lawyers. If somebody's got a law degree they want to show me that they can tell me that our lawyers are wrong, I'll listen, but that's the recommendation we got from our lawyers.
Roy, you thought the lawyers were wrong.
Excuse me?
You thought the lawyers were wrong.
Yeah, but you know what? I always think lawyers are wrong. That's how I make my living.
That's good. That's good thinking. So when he disagreed,
Hang on. Excuse me, what was that?
Just let it go. Let it go.
Like I said, we can just end the night now if you guys want. It's getting late. I want to give you guys the opportunity to say your piece. You have that right to say your piece.
Listen,
let's
let me just finish up, and we can get out of here. But we need you guys to make a stand. When you're not making a stand, like Jersey's making a stand. We need you to be like, hell no, that's not coming through. Right to these guys over here. Tell them, hell no, it's not coming through. That's what we need, and that we're not getting that from you. The only person we're getting it from is Roy, and we want to get it from the rest of you. Karen, we need you. Liz, we need you. We need you guys. Come on. You said you didn't want this, but then you signed it.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks.
Charles Price.
Good Good evening.
Good evening.
We've been over a lot of this already, so I'll be brief. Is that better? Really in front of us now. We're in the state of do nothing, and I think everyone's uncomfortable when you do nothing. So I think we should be in the state of let's do something. And my suggestion is that something is we put it on the agenda for the council to vote. We do not want the cable. So we get the agenda on one of the council meetings. We all have an opportunity to vote. And tonight, I'd like to do a quick mock vote and get everybody on record how they would vote.
All right, we're not going to do that. We've all kind of made our positions clear at this
So
point.
Roy, I have you as a no,
So-
no cable. Vice President Tresson, how do you vote?
I do not want the cables to come through Long Beach.
I couldn't hear that.
I do not want the cables to come through Long
So that's
Beach.
another no. Councilman McGinnis?
It doesn't matter what I think.
We're going to vote next week or 2 weeks. It's going to matter. So we got a no.
I'm going to say that there is, in fact, as Jamie Lynch said, there is global warming. There is also the
No,
fact...
this is about the cable running through Long Beach. We can't solve global warming.
Can I speak? So there is global warming, and I've noticed and I've read that there's a lot of whales, dolphins, and sharks that are going into shipping lanes as of late because of global warming, which is affecting Long Beach and is resulting in more shark sightings and some more cuts and injuries to our mammals and wildlife in the ocean, right? I also know that everyone here is going to go home tonight into their AC, and then they're going to turn it up. How about you all, did you all ride your bikes here? Did you walk here? Also, okay, so let me finish, please. So hopefully you don't turn on your AC tonight. You try to save some energy. And then when you have an electric car that's mandated, I hope you don't use it because there's not going to be any power for it. So the reality is that when you're in a decision-making position, you have to weigh all avenues, and you have to figure out your end goal. And the end goal for me is to not have cables go through Long Beach.
Thank you.
But I am not going to shout it from the rooftops and do theatrics. I'm going to work with this amazing team that we have here, the consultants that we hired, and figure out how to deal with these corporations and these people that do not have Long Beach best interests in mind. Everyone has a different style. My style is not to berate people and act angry and get petitions from people that don't even live in Long Beach. My approach is to work tirelessly, but not shout it from the rooftops to make sure this doesn't happen. And the call that we got was on 9 o'clock on a Friday night. And then the next day I was at my friend's memorial service, and I was on Zoom calls all freaking day with my West End friend who passed away, and we had a memorial service at the saloon. So if you think I don't care, and if you think this council doesn't care, then you don't really know us. And you know what, maybe that's the problem, because we are not the enemy, and we are good people. Okay? And we're doing everything we can. And just because we don't act like you act doesn't mean we don't care. And it doesn't mean that we're not doing the same thing for you. You are lucky to have this council. And if you think otherwise, you can smirk, and then you can see what it's like in the future. And you can know that there's some people and Republicans in this room that put Canzaroni and Ari Brown up to the stunt that they pulled on us on a Friday night where 4 of us had to rescind that letter. So think again about what you want the future to be. Because these are the people that can make a difference, and stop berating us. Because we can actually do something. So why don't you go call Ari Brown and call Canzaroni and tell them to get their asses down here to a meeting. Get them here.
So just to finish up, we're hearing against, so, Council President.
I do
Councilor
not
Rowland?
want the cables
Correct.
coming through Long Beach.
John, I'm sure you're a no once you get everything. We have sole discretion.
I've
We've
been
heard that.
consistent from the
Why don't we do a press conference? Why don't we go on the record, the city council, do a press conference, state publicly, we voted no, we don't want the cable, and we're going to tell everyone about it. Thank you.
Okay. And you, Bontrager? And I'm sorry if I butchered that. He left, okay. Well, no, that was the last one, so thanks for coming. It's 10 o'clock on the button, and everyone get home safe.